Hey guys and gals, it's Bobby Sylvester here to tell you about the newest giveaway before we start today's show. We just gave away the signed Antonio Brown jersey to one of our listeners named Scott from Missouri, and you can be next, but this time it's a signed Amari Cooper jersey from our friends at pristineauction.com. If you haven't checked out their site yet, seriously, take a look to see what they have for you. I saw a Gerald Ford signed baseball there today, and as always, there's tons of signed helmets and signed football jerseys. You won't believe some of the prices you can find here, so head on over to pristineauction.com, and when you place your bids, make sure to let them know FantasyPros sent you. And if you want to enter this contest, just subscribe and review us on iTunes and send a screenshot to contest@fantasypros.com. All right, let's talk some football. Welcome back to the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast with Mike Tagliere, and I'm Bobby Sylvester. So you know how every little kid gets their comfort item that they love to sleep with? My son goes to sleep with his daddy's t-shirts. He snuggles them. Tags, I imagine you'd do the same with this Amari Cooper signed jersey if they let you win it.
I was about to say, if for some reason we don't announce who won the Amari Cooper jersey, just take it Mike stole it. I think that's what we can take away from this, right?
Yeah. So our guest today is Dan Clasgens of GetSportsInfo.com. He also writes for Pro Football Focus. Dan is all over the place. Dan, how's it going?
Oh, man, it's that time of the season, fellas. 'Tis the season for some drafts, and like you guys cranking it out right now.
So I finally gave into all the Twitter heat. I saw Rounders this weekend.
Oh, you did? How did you like it? Tell me it was like the greatest movie of all time.
I mean, it doesn't crack my top 25. It was worth watching. I'll probably never watch it again if I'm being honest, but it wasn't a waste of time or anything. It was pretty good.
That's a pretty awful take, Bobby.
I can't believe you just finally broke down and watched this thing.
Yeah, I got sick of watching all the Disney shows, so, you know.
Well, I'm still watching Disney shows. I just got to take my daughter to see the Emoji Movie, for crying out loud.
There you go.
Oh, God, my daughter went and saw that last night with some of her friends, and I said, would someone actually pay to watch that movie? And it turns out that's the movie she went to go see.
And Tags actually said, can you please take me with you? I'll try not to embarrass you.
No, I asked her. I was like, was it the worst movie of all time? And her couple of friends that were over, they were like, yeah, it was pretty much the worst movie of all time.
Well, my 5-year-old daughter, she liked the poop icon. She's been drawing it ever since. So we're number twos. We're number twos.
So we got this question in the listener mailbag this morning from Julie in Illinois, and it's a great question. But guys, listen to how this starts. Question for the best looking man behind a mic. Whoa. So I guess my thoughts are,
no wonder you're reading it.
Is this Tag's grandmother? Did Julie maybe know Dan was going to be on the show today? Or maybe could it be that my suit and diaper strategy just won me a ton of respect?
I think it's definitely your suit and diaper strategy because nobody would say that about me. So,
well, maybe we should just all answer to be safe. Anyway, here's the question. In the past 2 seasons, we saw 2 running backs far outperform their ADPs with Atlanta and then Tennessee's offensive line last year. What offensive line could have that impact on its running back this season?
Dan, you want to go ahead first?
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were
No, sorry. I should have directed it towards 20.
I always try and give the guest the first floor if I can.
My bad. I was waiting for the question. No, I definitely think, first of all, the offensive line, that is a great question, Bobby. And when you look at offensive lines, I'm looking at the 2 biggest units that have improved, and just relying on the guys over there with me at Pro Football Focus. You look at the number 1 and 2 offensive lines in their 2017 rankings right now, the Eagles and the Browns, they're also 2 of the best risers this offseason. I love what Cleveland did, adding Treader and Zeitler up front. I think those guys are going to really improve an offensive line. They finished the year 16th in the PFF rankings for last season, up to number 2, and then Philadelphia jumped from 8 to 1. Now the question is, to me, in Philadelphia, what does that mean for the running backs? Because it looks like a running back headache. So I think the real answer here I find in the Browns. I think Isaiah Crowell, I don't know how much of a value he's going to be, but I definitely think Duke Johnson can be given his ADP right now. And then you look at another line that's improved quite a bit, and it's the Minnesota Vikings. They finished the season at Pro Football Focus at 29. They're up to 14 to start this preseason. They don't have a lot of studs, but that's huge strides. They've cut that deficit in half, and that makes me like rookie Dalvin Cook even more. I already think he's one of the most undervalued playmakers in this draft right now, and I'm a big believer in him. I'm a big believer that the Vikings are on the upswing here on the offensive line.
I haven't heard that take. So Tags, who's your team? Do you agree with him on one of these three?
I wouldn't say the Vikings are up high on my list. I know that they're trying to make strides, but this is a team that didn't produce one running back with a higher than 3.3 yards per carry last year.
Look at the running backs, though.
Right. It's not to say that they weren't good, but Dalvin Cook is someone who I wasn't even excited about pre-draft. And it had nothing to do with the combine. I just have never been a Dalvin Cook guy.
I guess that's where we differ on that one.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the thing is Dalvin Cook is obviously moving up draft boards because of the situation and the fact that Mike Zimmer came out this past week and said that the only time he's ever seen Latavius Murray's on tape. So you obviously want to move Dalvin Cook up. But for me, I agree with you on the Browns. The Browns actually showed up number 2 in my offensive line rankings. I think that that's a fantastic situation. Hugh Jackson came forward today and said that Duke Johnson's going to be involved in a lot of different ways. So it's not just Isaiah Crowell. I think it's Duke Johnson that people should be looking at as well. And the second one that I would go with is the Oakland Raiders. You know, a lot of people are moving Marshawn Lynch up their draft boards. Marshawn Lynch is somebody that the Raiders have said they want to limit him to around 200 touches. And if they do that, that's leaving a lot of opportunity for guys like DeAndre Washington, who was projected to be, maybe their starting running back this season before Lynch was signed. So I think that there's a lot of potential in that Raider backfield. And when you kind of look at what he did last year, it's impressive because you take a look at who played against stacked boxes. Like, for instance, Latavius Murray, he saw stacked boxes last year on a lot of his carries. People have kind of undervalued that. It was, I want to say 52% of the time he saw 8 or more in the box, which is just a monstrous number. And the fact that this backfield still produced, I want to say it was 4.8 yards per carry combined, that's impressive. So for me, I'm going to go with the Marshawn Lynch aging, narrative and say that DeAndre Washington has a chance to be that, Tevin Coleman this year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say is he might be Tevin Coleman. Granted, it's going to be tough to get to those touchdowns. For sure. But, he's free right now. He could be started as a flex in week 1, in my opinion.
What about Jalen Richard, though? Because before the Lynch sign, this was a guy I love. Yeah. They're talking about Lynch. I mean, he's coming off the couch. I mean, I'm a beast mode guy. I'm pro beast mode. Rest assured. But, I mean, it's far from a given. He's 31 years old. If they limit him, if he does turn out to flame out here for all the same reasons you just said, Jalen Richard going undrafted right now, and most of the mocks I've been in, ends up in RB2 instantly.
So, Julie, I thought about the Cleveland Browns, and I did think about the Philadelphia Eagles, the Vikings. I thought about the Rams, too, but it's not so much about the offensive line as much as it is about the scheme, about the game script, and I don't think that any of these teams are going to have an improved game script. I think the Browns are still going to win 3 to 5 games. I think the Eagles are still going to win 7 to 9, and I don't think they're going to run that ball that much more. The team that does intrigue me is the Miami Dolphins. It's not that they made some big additions to their offensive line, but they're healthy now. And when they were healthy, Jay Ajayi was a superstar. I think the Dolphins really helped out their defense. In fact, I wrote earlier this offseason, I thought they had the best draft overall. They added 3 key defensive pieces, and I think the Dolphins are going to be pretty good this year. I think they'll compete for a wild card, and because of that, I think Ajayi is going to see a ton of touches if he stays healthy.
So, Dan, I have a quick question for you. So this is an article that's actually going to be coming out. I want to say I'm going to put it out on Wednesday. It's done. The research is done. I spent a lot of my weekend doing this. So it was in regards to what effect does your team's scoring have effect on a fantasy finish for every single position? So would it be fair to say that the Browns are going to be a bottom 10 scoring offense this year? Is that fair to say?
I think they're a team on the rise, but I would certainly put them in the bottom third. That's a fair assessment.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Okay, so to be a top 12 running back over the last 5 years, you only have a 10% chance being on a top 12 scoring offense. So therefore, the odds of Isaiah Crowell, exceeding his ADP right now, which sits around that 13-14 running back, I think that's exactly where he's probably going to finish. So he's got a very, very, very slim chance of finishing as an RB1 in fantasy football this year. So take that as you will.
I'm right with you. And as I said, I mean, Crowell is a guy that I think you hit the nail on the head. He's at the right value right now. And it's right. I haven't ended up with a lot of shares of him, honestly. I mean, that part of the draft, I mean, I'm not afraid of him, but I'm usually past that first. That's still a spot where I like to go upside. I think the upside play in that backfield, you already hit the nail on the head, Tags, is Duke Johnson. I mean, look at where he's at right now. They're talking about working him in the slot there. I think they're both going to be good. I actually think Cleveland, if they can get anything at quarterback, could actually not finish last in the AFC North this year.
Didn't you hear DeShone Kizer is going to be a Hall of Fame candidate?
Oh, I thought he was already on the ballot for next year. Maybe Chad Johnson could lend him his Hall of Fame jacket he used on Monday Night Football.
There you go. By the way, guys, listening at home, we're going to be doing an extended listener mailbag segment coming up. So if you have questions, send them to mailbag@fantasypros.com. Try to keep them nice and short so we can get them on the show. Tags, with like half the questions that come in, I feel like the answer could be, so we've got this tool called Draft Wizard, and it's perfection. It will give you every answer you ever want to know better than Tags or myself or even Dan Clasgens' hashtag best looking man behind the mic could even offer.
Did they know that Dan was going to be on today? That may be the case.
I'm sure that wasn't the case.
We'll have to ask. So, guys, Flacco's back injury, they're saying it might be serious, and they're looking at Colin Kaepernick because of it. I read that they were actually praying about this situation and asked their fans to be praying for them as well, that they would make the right situation to see if the fans wanted Colin Kaepernick to join the team. If Kaepernick is indeed the starter in week 1 and Flacco's back injury is serious, is he a starting quarterback in fantasy football?
I think that he's better than Ryan Mallett.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look what he did from a fantasy.
Yeah, for fantasy at least.
Yeah, well, certainly for fantasy, but even in real life, I'll still probably take Kaepernick. Here's the thing. It's like, I don't think that they will sign him because we'll talk theoretically if you want about his value, but it's like they're still feeling that sting from Ray Rice, man. They're in a tough spot here. And the quote, I mean, I woke up and saw that quote this morning about him praying for us. I'm like, what is this? But I mean, if Kaepernick ends up on the Ravens and ends up starting for them, I mean, we can't expect him to do what he did in San Francisco, just from a fantasy points per game perspective, because they have actually other weapons in this offense they can go to. Not that I'm that ecstatic about that.
Well, they're going to throw the ball an extra 100 times more than they did in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, Flacco leads the league in passing.
But when you run the football, as we all know, fellas, it adds to the value. So, I mean, he certainly has to be on the fantasy radar. It's a situation that I'll avoid, but it doesn't mean it won't come to actually equal into some productive weeks for owners that take a risk.
Yeah, and I think his body's more disposable if he signs a 1-year contract. Like, they can just let him run and be Colin Kaepernick. I'm actually really intrigued by this. If he ends up getting the starting job, I'm going to have him on a lot of my teams. Are you really,
though? I mean, I just don't even think I would have him, even if he's the starter for the season in Baltimore. I wouldn't look at him as a QB1, and that's certainly not something we're talking about here in the short term. I mean, I don't even have him in my top 25 if he signs with the Ravens and gets a couple starts that we know of.
Interesting. I think there's pretty significant upside. What do you think, Tags?
So I just want Colin Kaepernick to be signed so we could end this, because like it's been ongoing. Like it's a never ending thing. I just want him to be a backup somewhere and like so we can move on with our lives.
It's never going to end. We're still talking about Tim Tebow. Well, mostly I'm still talking about Tim Tebow.
No, but so here's the effect. I don't know. I don't think Joe Flacco misses a season or anything like that. So I don't think we can automatically assume that Colin Kaepernick sees any playing time. I think he'd just come in as a backup in case Joe Flacco's back did in fact act up. Now, if for some reason Joe Flacco had to miss some time, Colin Kaepernick immediately jumps into a top 15 quarterback seemingly every week with his legs. And the reason I say that is because, we saw him last year in San Francisco in a really bad situation, produce some fantasy numbers. Now, was he unpredictable at times? Yes, absolutely. I was watching the Bears game that he played the first half in, and it was brutal. Like, you do not want Colin Kaepernick on his worst day because he just looked bad. With that being said, the Ravens, I've talked about it in the show before, they lack red zone options right now. Jeremy Maclin's arguably the only one that I would trust in the red zone, whereas Colin Kaepernick can use his legs at least still at this point in his career and produce some fantasy numbers. That's one thing I think everyone undervalues each year is, there's a reason that Tyrod Taylor is still undervalued because people don't equivalate him to a fantastic real life quarterback, so they translate it to fantasy. And Colin Kaepernick, to me, he's not as good as quarterback as people make him out to be in the media right now, and the fact that he doesn't have a job and he's a top 15, he's not a top 15 quarterback.
The problem is Flacco. I mean, that's where if he signs today and they say Flacco's going to miss another month, okay, we know. Right. I mean, at that point, Flacco's going to come back and be the quarterback of this football team at some point. So that to me, it's not the fact that if he were to play 16 games,
I was only saying like if it's a serious back injury.
I don't know. I mean, Flacco's sort of boring, so I think it would mix up the offense a little bit to have something different.
Are you guys more worried about Flacco or Andrew Luck at this point?
Flacco.
I'm more worried about Andrew Luck because Flacco won't be on any of my teams.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, actually. But I honestly think it's a little bit. I think it's a little smoke by Andrew Luck. I think it was said tongue in cheek in that I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to be out there for week 1. I don't know. He's taking things slow and he's playing it right. That's what Andrew Luck does.
He doesn't even have a smartphone, so he's really conservative about these kind of things.
So Tags, right now you're gobbling him up if the value's there. I mean, he's dropping 2 rounds in the last month. If he drops another round, are you going to pull the trigger?
Yeah, I actually drafted Fantasy Pros versus Joe's last night, and I ended up with Andrew Luck. I think I took him in the 8th round.
Oh, 8th round. I'm pulling the trigger, too. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Love it.
Exactly. When I get a discount, I think we talked about it with JJ on the show like last week, where I said that I'd start considering Andrew Luck in the 7th or 8th round, and it just so happens that last night he fell into the 8th, and I was like, okay.
Oh, you can't turn it down in the 8th.
That's what I'm saying.
Guys, listen to this. Aaron Rodgers, over the past 3 seasons, has led all quarterbacks 21.57 fantasy points. Just absurd. Number 2 was not Breeze. It was not Brady. It's Andrew Luck, and by quite a bit, 20.74. Breeze is down at 20.04, and Brady's at 20.01. And this is with Andrew Luck having that wasted season where he was hurt.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck could be the QB1 this season if he's healthy.
I wouldn't doubt that at all, as a matter of fact. And, you know, the defense plays into the fact, like Rodgers last year, we've already seen Andrew Luck throw the ball 620 plus times. We had never seen that before with Aaron Rodgers. And after seeing last year, we know the outcome of what Aaron Rodgers can do, right? So if we can get Andrew Luck even 90% of as effective as Aaron Rodgers, then we're going to see a historic fantasy season, because this defense is not getting any better. And the fact that, you know, their number 1 draft pick is now shelved on the PUP list, that's not going to help matters. And, you know, it's just, the situation is perfect for it. Frank Gore is not going to break out any long runs. He's not great at this point in his career. So everything sets up well for Luck and if
that value stays there on Luck. I'm waiting to see it trickle over to the receivers, because T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief, I mean, their ADPs are staying pretty steady as Luck is sort of dropping. But if this lingers, you're going to be able to get a discount on those guys too, especially Moncrief. I mean, he's a guy that's sliding into the mid-round of drafts now as well in some of them. So it's going to be an interesting situation to watch in August, to say the least.
For sure.
So, guys, there was a quote from Sean Payton about Alvin Kamara. Did you guys see this?
I did.
Comparing him to
In
Marshall
his defense,
Faulk.
though, he was asked similarities between him and Falk. It didn't come out of the woodwork. And as somebody with a little bit of experience in these coach-player interview settings like this at camp, I mean, I think this quote's a little bit blown out of proportion. Plus, you got to remember, he actually coached Falk during his college days. So there is a personal connection.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So Tags, is Kamara the next Marshall Faulk?
No, he's not. The crazy part is I actually like Kamara. I liked him coming out. I think that the landing spot could not have been better for him, because the Saints...
He's going to get like 20 touches this season.
So, no, I'm not. I'm talking more from a dynasty standpoint, but he is going to see more work than you think, is because, you know, look at, like, most people don't realize, even though that Mark Ingram and Tim Hightower got tons of touches last year, I think Travaris Cadet had over 50 receptions, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right,
so,
yeah.
You know, Kamara is a more electric player than that. But he still is a rookie, so we dial back expectations. But in terms of comparing him to Marshall Faulk, is kind of a joke, because, you know, I like Kamara. If I were to compare the type of player he is, it's to more like a Jamal Charles. I don't think that he's a 3-down running back, and in that he can carry on 1st and 2nd down all the time. You want to rack up 20 carries. I think he's a 10 to 12 carry guy, but I think he could do a lot of work out of that backfield in Sean Payton's offense. So I do like Kamara, but comparing him to Marshall Faulk, no.
Okay, before we start this mock draft, I want to tell you all about the championship belt my league started using last season. Yeah, you heard that right. Championship belt. We got it from fantasyjocks.com, and this thing is a work of art. It immediately brought the league to a whole new level. I can't say I won it last year, but I did sneak off and wear it for a moment to try it on. This year, it's all mine. You can get your league a championship belt too at fantasyjocks.com. They have big boards for your live draft as well as championship leagues. Just check out their site. There's so many goodies there for you and your league mates. You're going to love it. That's fantasyjocks.com. And they gave us one of these killer championship belts to give away. So when you subscribe and review us on iTunes, then send us a screenshot at contest@fantasypros.com. You'll be entered for both this, the Amari Cooper signed jersey giveaway, and all our future giveaways.
It's fantastic, Bobby, and I just want to chime in here and say that I can back this up because I didn't even know. So this is our sponsor, right? And I just literally today went to my door. I had a shipment from Fantasy Jocks, and it was a belt from one of the leagues that I had won. And he said, "Hey, Mike, here's your championship belt." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is a sponsor on our show." And I picked up the belt, and I kid you not, like I expected it to be like a flimsy kind of belt. Nope. This thing weighs probably like 8 pounds. It's like almost feels like a ceramic plate on the front of it. It's got my name engraved in there and everything. It's amazing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing's impressive. Like, imagine wearing that to the airport and you try to put it through airport security.
It'd weigh me down.
Like, they're gonna be nervous
for sure
because it's so big and heavy, man. The thing is amazing.
It is.
Okay, so we're gonna be doing this mock draft here, and today we're doing a PPR mock draft. It's 12 teams. You guys can all follow along and compete against us because it's gonna grade our drafts, and you can see how you measure measure up against us. FantasyPros.com/draftwizard. And everyone has the same settings plugged in. We're all going to be doing separate drafts, though, and talking about our strategies as we go through. As I said, PPR, 12 teams, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 1 flex, and we're going with just 4 benches, and I'm making a rule, no backup quarterbacks. I think that kind of inflates the score a little bit. We're going to try to work on that here. But anyways, guys, we're doing a random draft order, so go ahead and click randomize and tell us what you get. Tags, what do you have?
I am pick number 5, which I am more than okay with. I actually love having a top 5 pick now. I think 6 is what concerns me now, right?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. And what do you have here?
I'm at number 10. Sitting in the 10 hole, so not my favorite spot, but we'll work with it.
Cool. So Tags has number 5, Dan has 10, and I've got number 12. I'm going on the swing here. So Tags, you get the first pick. Who are your options and who are you taking?
Yeah, so Julio Jones is still on the board. He'd probably be my number 4 pick in drafts right now. I think Ezekiel Elliott moves down to where I don't even feel comfortable taking him at 6, knowing that it seems very likely that he's going to miss some time. So Julio Jones is my pick here. Some people say that there's some risk to that, but I would argue there's risk to any wide receiver. You know what I mean? Like injuries, I'm never going to bet on them. And Julio Jones, when he's on the field, he's the type of wide receiver that can set records. So he's my pick.
Most yards per game of anyone in NFL history, right?
He does, and it's not even close. I want to say, isn't it like 10 more yards per game than any other receiver?
Well, Odell Beckham's actually pretty close.
That's
but before
right,
Odell Beckham came, it was there.
For sure.
All right, Dan, who are you taking here in the first round?
Oh, I'm ecstatic, fellas. I had A.J. Green slip to me at number 10. Looks like 4 running backs off the board, the big 3 plus McCoy. Evans and Nelson going ahead of A.J. Green. And that allows me to nab the Bengals receiver coming off an injury-riddled season, but pretty happy to put him in there. I've got A.J. Green in my top 5, so getting here is a good spot.
I'll tell you what, if I didn't already know what was going to happen in my first round, I would have been really upset that A.J. Green fell to you. But guys, Mike Evans dropped to me at number 12. Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's been sliding down draft boards recently, and I'm not really sure why.
Oh, PPR, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why he's been dropping down draft boards because we already knew the situation. But I'm not kidding. Is like I've seen him drop to, I think I did an expert mock draft last night, and I want to say Mike Evans fell to number 10. So, yeah, he's definitely sliding down draft boards for whatever reason.
So my second pick's a little trickier here. I've got Jay Ajayi, who the experts recommend as the top player. Probably going to wait on running back. I could also go to DeMarco Murray, Jordan Howard. But to me, it's down to Michael Thomas and T.Y. Hilton. I know the ECR, that's expert consensus, has Thomas a little bit higher, but I just trust T.Y. Hilton a little bit more. You know what? With Andrew Luck being injured and not knowing, I'm just going to let it swing to Michael Thomas here. So I'm going to pull the trigger on Michael Thomas. Change my mind.
I think you made the right choice there. I think I would have gone Michael Thomas over Hilton, especially with considering what's going on. But I actually have Thomas over Hilton in my rankings. But even if I knew Luck was going to play all 16 games, I'd still take Thomas.
I'm going with DeMarco Murray with my second round pick. I don't have my options. I'm looking at T.Y. Hilton's still there. I can go Dez, but with A.J. Green in the fold, I like Murray at this spot. I mean, it's not great value, but you're talking about a player. I still think he has another year left, fellas. I know people are scared off by the fact that Henry's still in the mix. Obviously, he wore down the stretch last season, but you're talking about a guy who's finished as a top 5 back twice, number 1 in 2014 in 3 seasons, inside the top 7 fantasy scores at the position for the last 5 years. So I feel like he's a decent RB1 on a back end of a stud receiver like Green.
All right, so going into my pick, we talked about this the other day, Bobby, where Amari Cooper was falling into the start of the third, and we said that was kind of ludicrous. So seeing him on the board here, I think that's who I'm considering. It comes down to him or Doug Baldwin. And Baldwin, for me, he's someone that, even though he didn't score nearly as many touchdowns last year as he did in 2015, he's still in line for a little bit of regression in terms of what he's targeted in the red zone. I think that if Paul Richardson takes a step forward, if Tyler Lockett can stay on the field and stay healthy, Jimmy Graham is in a contract year, they have Eddie Lacy, CJ Prosise is catching passes out of the backfield, I think that we might see his numbers dip a little bit. And I'm not saying that I drop him out of my top 12. I still have him as a top 12 wide receiver, but I'm going to go with Amari Cooper here just because I think he offers me the higher ceiling at the end of the year. Having him and Julio Jones together, I can deal with some variance in order to take the upside that they present.
That's a nice value on Cooper, man.
For sure. I mean, I'm happy with it. I'm even happier with my third round pick, and I'm not attempting to go 0 RB. Let me get this out of the way. But it's just the way that things line up. In the third round is where I think things get really, really dicey, and you're forced to sometimes reach for players that you like. And so for me, there's two players here that I like a lot, Sammy Watkins and Carlos Hyde. Hyde has been falling into the fifth round sometimes, so I know that I can get him in the fourth. So I'm going to go with my guy, Sammy Watkins here. All reports out of Buffalo are that he's been fantastic. Someone on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, DM'd me. He said he was at the Bills camp. Adam Pfeiffer, I think it was. He was at Bills camp, and he said that Sammy Watkins looks phenomenal. There's no hitch in his giddy up and all that. So Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, and Sammy Watkins is my top 3 wide receivers. I am ecstatic.
That is so good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming back in the third round with my wide receiver 2 as well. I'm staring at Jeffrey and Watkins, the top 2 guys left here on the board. I've got Golden Tate in there too, and PPR I think is
me too.
A stud wide receiver too, and Jarvis Landry still in the mix. So it's a real tough spot to be in here, but I'm going to just stay a ranking slave of mine right now, the ones I got up there at the Fantasy Pros, and I'm going with Alshon Jeffrey, fellas. It's a tough call for me, but I like Jeffrey in Philadelphia if I can get him as my wide receiver too. Sure, he comes with risk. The injuries are there, but the situation's improved. He's got a year to play it off. I still think he has some good days ahead if he can stay healthy. In round 3, I'll roll the dice and put him on the back end of AJ Green.
I don't think we've talked about Alshon once all season.
Well, I know Bobby just every time Alshon's mentioned, Bobby just goes, "Oh, he'll have some soft tissue injury by week 3. Don't even worry about it."
Maybe by week 2.
So, Dan, does it worry you at all that Doug Peterson's offense does not tailor to wide receivers? And it's not just, I know that last year the Philly offense, they didn't have exactly the greatest of wide receivers to throw to, but even going back to his Kansas City days, if you recall, Doug Peterson was the offensive coordinator for the team that had 0 wide receiver touchdowns. Last year in Philadelphia, the wide receivers only seen, I think it was 48% of the targets. Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Jordan Matthews, are you concerned a little bit about Doug Peterson and the fact that the way he calls offenses?
I mean, certainly. As I said, as a wide receiver too, though, I still think the volume and targets are going to be there. They're not going to throw the football quite a bit, but, I'm looking at the guys in his range. In a PPR, Jarvis Landry's probably a safer bet for sure. But, Sammy Watkins, what have we seen from him? I'm concerned. They got the deep ball if he plays, but I'm more concerned about his durability than I am Jeffrey's. I think they're both issues. Like I said, I'm sticking to the rankings. I think Jeffrey finishes inside the top 50. If I could tell you right now he was going to play 16 games, even 14 games, you don't think he's a wide receiver too?
I think he's a wide receiver 1 if he plays 14 games.
I would put him down in the low-end wide receiver 2 crowd just because, I've projected it, I've gone through, and I've tried to bump him up, trying to figure out the best-case scenario for him, and I just don't see any way that Wentz throws for more than 25 touchdowns, and if that's the case, trying to figure out where they all go, it's hard to project Alshon for anything more than 7 touchdowns, and when you're there, it's, he can enter that wide receiver 15, 14 range, but I'm hesitant in terms of the target share there.
So, guys, I missed out on Sammy Watkins by 1 pick.
Sucks to be you.
Such a bummer. Sammy Watkins is my dude. If you guys who listen to the show don't know, I'm going to go ahead and pick Aaron Rodgers here. Here at pick number, where are we? We're pick number 36. I'd take Aaron Rodgers right around 27, 28. He's always a top 12 VBD player if he stays healthy. Good chance he stays healthy because he's a quarterback. So I'm going to grab Aaron Rodgers here. And on the swing around, I really don't like what I'm looking at. So I'm just going to take Tom Brady too and go back-to-back quarterbacks. What do you guys think?
No, you're
about
not. Get out of here.
All right. I'm going to, we talked about this a couple episodes ago. What do you do in round 3 or 4 if everyone you like is gone? Do you just reach for somebody? And my answer was yes. I'm looking at the top of my board, Alshon, Tom Brady, Devontae Adams, Marshawn Lynch, Carlos Hyde, Terrell Pryor. I don't like any of them. So I'm going to go ahead and reach, and it's between Joe Mixon and Golden Tate to me. I don't have a running back yet, so I'm going to let that be the tiebreaker. And Golden Tate might still be there next time I pick. Probably not, but I'm going to cross my fingers. So Joe Mixon it is.
Joe Mixon, he's not a bad pick there. He's been climbing up boards, but I am concerned. I will say this, though. I had moved Joe Mixon up my boards in anticipation that Gio Bernard would not be ready for the start of the season. And the fact that he's practicing, and not only practicing, but the reports are that he looks phenomenal. And granted, every year we hear this about Gio Bernard, so I'm not going to go over the top, but doesn't it remove some of the desire that we have for Joe Mixon?
Oh, no doubt about it. I'm here in Cincinnati. I didn't get to make it down to camp this week, but I was talking with a good buddy of mine, James Rapine, who covers the team for the radio station that covers the Bengals. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, that's exactly what first thing he told me was Gio Bernard is 100%. And the thoughts of him not being ready, you can dismiss them. Plus, if we're going to talk about the offensive lines on the rise that are boosting values, I mean, the Bengals offensive line has a lot to prove here. So this is a muddled situation. I'll definitely take my Dalvin Cook in round 5. You could have your Joe Mixon in round 3. And
you know what one of the really cool features is about Draft Wizard is we've got this button called Revert Pick, so that when the two people you're talking to on the podcast, talk you out of something, you can go back and just pick Golden Tate. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Maybe it's cheating, but you know what? I also have to teach you guys about the button, so.
I'm going to go Isaiah Crowell with my next pick. I really wanted to just go with him in round 3. Him and Hyde are there, and I'm with you, Mike. I love Carlos Hyde at his value. I do believe Crowell to be a slightly safer play here. I'll go ahead and pull the trigger on him. And this is, like we talked about, the spot that he doesn't have the ceiling, but he has a floor. And I'll take him here as RB13 off the board. It looks like RB15 off the board, and as my RB2.
Tags, you sticking with the 0 running back strategy here?
Well, that's what's crazy is the entire time that you guys have been talking about your picks right now, like there's been 4 picks that have gone by and I'm still torn because I'm sitting here staring. I have 3 wide receivers and I'm staring at Carlos Hyde's there and Travis Kelce is there. I didn't think that Travis Kelce would be here towards the end of the 4th round, which has me really thinking because the pick predictor on the Draft Wizard is showing that it's an 89% chance that he's picked by the next time. Carlos Hyde's a 60% chance. I think they're both going to be gone, but I'm going to go, I was always told, get the elite players, get as many elite players as you can. And I'm going to follow that strategy, so I'm going to actually go Travis Kelce here.
You should probably draft Kevin White next round then if you're going for elite players.
Oh, God. No. Just stop now. No, but actually, I'm upset now because Carlos Hyde went 2 picks before me. So, but the good news is I have a follow-up here in the fact that I have Carlos Hyde as my number 12 running back. C.J. Anderson is my number 14 in my rankings. So C.J. Anderson is still there. As is Mark Ingram, but I'm going to go with C.J. Anderson. He's definitely the highest on my list. And, for getting Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Sammy Watkins, and Travis Kelce, C.J. Anderson is not a bad consolation prize.
Yeah, that's a nice pick.
For sure.
All right, Dan, back to you for the 5th round here.
Oh, man, this is looking brutal here all of a sudden, what's available in my pool. So, I mean, I've got 2 running backs, 2 receivers right now. We talked about Luck, and I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not going to go with him just yet. This is not round 7. This is round 5, so it's a little different. The 4 tight ends off the board here. You know what, man? I think I'm just going to stick with the receivers, and, I mean, I've been sort of talking about it all season, but I'm going to go Dante Moncrief here, boys. And another not great pick that I was really targeting, but I like him as my wide receiver 3. I'm reaching here just to fill out the spot. It looks like there's a big receiver run in this pool. So I'm playing the board here going against the ADP, but I mean, there's a good 30-something receivers already off the board when I pull the trigger here on mine.
So, Tags, what do you think? Over under 10 touchdowns for Dante Moncrief?
If Luck plays all 16 games, I still don't even know if I would say over because 10 touchdowns is an actually ridiculous number to get to, but I do think that
Moncrief's a touchdown machine, man.
Agreed, yes, and that's the thing is like he would be one of, I mean, if I were to project anybody for 10 touchdowns, like I could probably project confidently maybe 10 wide receivers. Moncrief would definitely be in the conversation.
Yep, me too. So before I make my next 2 picks, I want to stop to tell you about the other sponsor of today's show, Real Time Fantasy Sports. If you haven't been to their site, it's time to check it out and give it a try. The website's real smooth and it offers award-winning commissioner services along with DFS, best ball, and active public leagues. They're also legal operators in New York, Missouri, and most other states. Again, that's rtsports.com/pros, and please be sure to put the pros so that they know we sent you. All right, guys, so I've got 3 wide receivers and 1 quarterback, no running back. So I'm very pleased to announce that Marshawn Lynch will be the next member of my team. Can you believe he dropped that far?
At the end of the 5th?
End of the 5th round, baby. I love it.
His ADP right now is like 20, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I'm thrilled about it. And I'm also going to get Mark Ingram, another good PPR guy. He's got nice hands. He's playing with Drew Brees. I know AP's still there, but I trust him quite a bit.
Wow. And Dan, real quick before you pick, I want to make a point on what you said actually in your last pick because I really liked it because I actually just got done writing up this mock draft that I did and I said it was an important point and it's what you said. You go, Dante Moncrief here in the 5th where you took him. You're like, I don't feel great about it, but at the same time, you said that there was like 30 something wide receivers off the board instead of saying, you reached on John Brown or you took Jeremy Maclin in the 6th round. What are you talking about? ask how many players at his position were taken before then. When you say Dante Moncrief was taken outside the top 30 wide receivers, that's fantastic value, and I don't care what round he's taken in, right?
You're right.
That's why you got to play the tiers, boys.
Yes.
That's right.
Yep.
And I'll tell you right now, I'm looking at the board. I thought about him last time around, but now here in round 6, I'll go ahead. I'll take Andrew Luck. We talked about him before.
There you go.
I'll put him with Moncrief, and hopefully those two can combine with the rest of the squad. Once again, the receivers are plucked off the board. I got my 2 starting running backs. Am I going to take Luck? All the stud tight ends are gone. It's definitely time to get that quarterback value here in round 6.
That's real nice, Dan. Real good.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely like that. And that's the thing. So I get to the point in my draft where I fell behind in the running back position. I have C.J. Anderson as my RB1. Usually at this point in the draft is when I'm looking at John Brown, Jeremy Maclin, that range, but I have 3 stud wide receivers. I have my tight end. So
I'd still take him, man. At this point, if they were still there, you got to take him, right?
I would disagree just because I see Mike Gillislee here. And Mike
Yeah.
Gillislee, so the stat I was talking about from that article I'll be publishing on Wednesday, it's that 33% of top 6 running backs over the last 5 years, 33% of them have come from top 6 scoring NFL offenses. We know that the Patriots are going to be there in the top 6. We know that LeGarrette Blount finished number 7 last year in standard scoring. Mike Gillislee is an improved version. I don't care what anybody says about the 18 touchdowns. Mike Gillislee is the ultimate upside play, and considering I waited so long at running back, I'm more than happy having him as my RB2.
Yeah, I would be too.
And then we come back, and I'm staring at a board now where I still don't have a quarterback. Russell Wilson's there, and that's pretty dangerous. Like I am going to go Russell Wilson here because I think that the value's too good here. Because if I wait, then I'm probably going to wait until Tyrod Taylor. And I'd be drafting somebody like Paul Perkins over him. And it's not to say Perkins shouldn't be drafted, but I think there's a chance he makes it there to me next round, whereas Russell Wilson is definitely going to be off the board. So Russell Wilson in the 7th round, I'll take that.
I'm not a big fan of Russell Wilson, but at that stage, man, you got to pull the trigger. It's a nice pick.
For sure. Dan, how do you feel about Russell Wilson?
I mean, he's got healthier down the stretch, started getting that mobility, and he didn't have to run for a ton of yards, but just get those extra rushing yards will definitely help, and I'm a big fan. He's a winner, man. I'll tell you what, I'm here in the next round. I could go Jack Doyle and try to stack up the Colts here, but I'm not prepared to do that. Instead, I'm probably just Mark Ingram and Dalvin Cook, 2 guys that we've talked about already on this episode, are sitting here in round 6, round 7 now, and I'm gonna go with Mark Ingram because that's just ridiculous, and that's my whole point. Is 6 weeks ago, if I'd have done this podcast with you, I'd have been talking people off of Ingram, but we have watched his stock plummet. And I'm sorry, Adrian Peterson's 32. Alvin Kamara, I'm like Tags. I like him, but he's a rookie. Let's be real here. Mark Ingram's the incumbent, and the fall to the 7th round, fellas, is just ridiculous. This is a guy in January when I started my rankings for 2017. I had as just on the edge of being an RB1. And now here he is in round 7. I'll go ahead and pick him.
Yeah,
let's pretend for a second that Adrian Peterson isn't the player that we all remember. And, I mean, what does that leave? It leaves Mark Ingram with a significant role in a top 3 scoring offense. So, yeah, I love the pick.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I'm surprised you can go with Cook since you're a Cook truther, but maybe he'll be there for you next round. We'll find out in a second. But first, I'm going to make my 2 picks, and I'm going back-to-back running backs again. So 4 straight picks with a running back. There's 40 wide receivers off the board already. So I'm looking at Deshaun Jackson, Devontae Parker. I'm not that fond of either of them at this stage in the draft, so I'm going to pull the trigger on Amir Abdullah as my flex running back. And then from my backup running back, I'm going to go ahead and get Doug Martin, who's going to be off for 3 games, but he's not even going to be starting for me, so who really cares? I might have a star when he comes back.
Yeah. You talked about Doug Martin before on another podcast and saying that you take him at maybe the end of the 4th, beginning of the 5th. So
he's been on every single one of my teams when we've done these drafts, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's the thing is like you have to, at that point. So Dan, do you ever get to a point, like, I don't know if you do like any play draft, like the app now, like where you can do best ball leagues or MFL 10s, things like that. If you ever end up with so much of one player, does it force you to go back and like reevaluate how you look at him?
It does. I mean, I'll tell you, but I've really gotten, especially with the early picks, I think that's where you really got to diversify. I do more in my high stakes leagues. I'll go in different directions on purpose because I keep going to that same spot over and over. On the mid round guys, though, the shares usually get heavy because if you like a guy, at some point you're going to grab him, especially in these middle rounds like this right now. So am I up? I've lost track who's up here.
Oh, yeah, I forget. Who is up? Yeah, I'm up. Yeah, you're
All
up,
right,
Dan.
So I'm going to go, you know what? I think I am going to go with my guy, Dalvin Cook. I know I just went with another running back. I guess this will be the last one I take. But this is a guy that, I mean, yeah, we differ on. But in the 8th round, I'm telling you, I think the opportunity alone is going to be there for him to do something special. And you know what? I got to reverse that pick because I accidentally just clicked on Spencer Ware here, though. So let me take that back. I was like, what
there
happened?
You go, revert pick, baby.
Where'd
yeah.
Spencer Ware go? I messed that up.
Spencer Ware's a great value there, though, too, man. You're talking about my draft being all funky. You've had some guys fall. Your team's looking nice.
All right, I've got it fixed now. We're back on board.
All right. All right, Tags, to you for back-to-back now.
All right, so this pick I'm going to be, I'm taking Paul Perkins here because he's still on the board in the 8th round. That's fine. And I've been wondering, like, why is Paul Perkins falling down draft boards so much? And so here's the thing that I've been, like, one of my best buddies in the industry is Joe Holka, and he shared with me his rushing expectation numbers that he went through. And the part that scares me on Perkins is that, you look at his overall production last year, you're like, okay, his yards per carry is solid, whatever. He didn't get too much of a shot, but he only faced 8 men or more in the box 7% of the time, which was one of the lowest percentages in all of the NFL. So they do go spread offense here an awful lot. You'll see them go 3 wide. You may see them go 4 wide if you consider Evan Engram as a wide receiver, which I do most of the time. So he's probably going to continue to see a lot of light fronts, and that's fine. But for a guy that's projected to be he's going to be the starting running back in an offense that, we should expect some big numbers out of them this year with the firepower they have. I just don't understand why he's falling, a workhorse running back falling into the late 8th round, even if he does lose some of the passing down work to Shane Vereen. I just don't get it.
You're not worried at all about Wayne Gallman?
I like Wayne Gallman future. I think that they're going to see what they have in Perkins first. I think they're going to give Perkins every shot they have to work this. And think about it this way, Bobby. I've actually thought about that too. But think about last year. Rashad Jennings was not very good. And did they ever give Paul Perkins the shot because Rashad Jennings was struggling? No, they gave the veteran.
Good point. Maybe they learned their lesson, though. Perkins wasn't very good either. I know he gets the first crack.
He looked good
here,
down the stretch, though. He looked good those last 4 games.
He did.
There was enough.
You're
there.
right. You're right.
I'm with you. I think this is a great spot here, Mike.
I love Gallman's tape, though. He's so patient. He's just, he has great instincts, great footwork. I know he's not the fastest or strongest guy, but I think this is a starting running back in the NFL. I don't think it's going to take the Giants that long to figure it out.
Well, when you're here in the late 8th, it's very little risk. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're paying a top 5 pick where it's like Spencer Ware. I can understand some of the concern about, Kareem Hunt, but we're not hearing that about Paul Perkins. We've heard nothing but the Giants say that he's the starting running back. That's what it is. And if we heard that about Spencer Ware would be going inside the top 3 rounds probably. So for me on the way back, it's funny, I haven't taken a wide receiver since the 3rd round, and we're now in the 9th.
Why would you? Yeah.
Right. But John Brown is still on my board, and John Brown, I swear to God, this guy just follows me around. He wants me to draft him on every team, and I'm going to do it, And his injury, his soft tissue injury that he just had, it's just going to keep his ADP where it's at. It's right around the number 41 wide receiver off the board. So John Brown, welcome to Team Tagliere.
He was taken in the 6th round in my draft.
That's madness, dude.
You and John Brown just belong together.
We do. We need to get
soulmates.
We need to get married at some point.
Sounds like my John Brown
so.
is Devontae Parker, because he's a guy, my wide receiver 4 extraordinaire. And I sort of regret that they're talking him up once again this offseason already, because now the hype train's starting to roll, because he's the post-hype sleeper, right? This guy's been talked up, but I'm telling you, if the season comes where he can put it all together, I've got him on my wide receiver 4 probably in about half my mocks right now, because I just keep pulling the trigger, fellas. And at that price, what are you really risking?
He's got number 1 upside.
So I've got the back-to-back picks here, and I was going to have fun and go 5 straight running backs, but...
Did Dan take a pick? Did you pick Devontae Parker?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know he was available. Holy crap.
Yeah, he was almost available in my league. He, 5 picks away from getting to me. I would have been thrilled with that.
Wow.
But anyway, I was going to go 5 straight running backs here, but I think it's more fun for all 3 of us to get our guys in the same round. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on Hunter Henry. Pick Predictor says he might be there next round. 58% chance. I'm not taking that chance. After Hunter Henry, it drops off to Coby Fleener, who I don't mind. Jason Witten, Julius Thomas. I got to get my tight end now before it's too late. So Hunter Henry it is. And then I'm going another running back here, number 5, because after Derrick Henry, it's a pretty steep drop-off. What am I going to do? Matt Forte, Robert Kelly, Latavius Murray? No, thank you. I'll take Derrick Henry now and go with 2 wide receivers with my final 2 picks.
I like it. Bobby, you'd be proud of me, by the way. I own so many Jack Doyle shares that I was doing a draft best ball. And yesterday I got on the clock, and Jack Doyle and Hunter Henry were staring at me in the face. And I said, I'm going to draft Hunter Henry here just because I need to.
What a smart man.
I was a witness to your guys' bet on that way back right when you were getting ready to move or just move, Tags. You guys made a bet on Henry and Doyle the last time I was on the episode. But Roll the tape.
Yeah.
I still think
I'm
Doyle.
glad you've come around, Tags, to
I'm diversifying is all. I literally own Jack Doyle in probably like 30% of my best ball
I
leagues.
own him here. I just took him with my second to last pick, and it looks like I will go with that cold stack of luck, Moncrief and Doyle here. But the 10th guy in the league to take a tight end, Ebron was still left. I could have taken Ebron, but honestly, in a PPR, I'll take my chances with Doyle.
I like it. All right, so coming back to me, John Brown is on my bench. That's a nice upside play there. And we talk about this every time we do a mock draft. We talk about the upside that we want on our bench. And Kareem Hunt, as much as I like Spencer Ware and as much as I think that he's the starter, I'm not ignoring Kareem Hunt. And if I get him late, like right here in the end of the 10th round, I'll pull the trigger on Kareem Hunt, and he's worth that risk. So Kareem Hunt is my pick there. And then it's going to come back around to me in the 11th. I mean, this is an area of the draft where I'm not really in love with many players. This is tough. I'm actually going to go with Gio Bernard. Hearing the good things that we are about him, to have him in the 11th round, I mean, I'll take him there. It's cheap, and that's basically where I'm at with it. I'm not excited about Gio Bernard or anything.
Is Gio Bernard still available in your league? Is Alvin Kamara still available?
He was, yes. And I actually, Kamara went 2 picks after I took Bernard.
Is DeAndre Washington there? I'd take DeAndre Washington over either of them.
You can get him later.
Those guys over Washington. I probably would take Bernard over Kamara off safety, but I mean, I definitely think Kamara has a higher ceiling because we've seen what Gio does. At least there's a bit of unknown there. I have to go with the receiver. I've only got 4. So my last dart here, and you talk about upside, these are 2 guys in the 50s that I think have it. Kevin White from Chicago.
Yes.
To go along with my Alshon Jeffrey and Dante Moncrief. What's the over-under on the total number of games my receivers play this year? Devontae Parker. I mean, dude.
You
AJ
only need
Green.
1 game from Kevin White to win the championship.
Well, it's between Kevin White, and I'm going to go with him, but Josh Doxson's also there. I think both those guys are nice late darts to throw as your wide receiver 5 in any draft.
Yeah, for sure. I like Doxson.
Man, do you guys remember when Kevin White had 3 more targets per game than Alshon Jeffrey? I mean, granted, it was just 3.5 games. But Kevin White was seeing the ball so much.
It wasn't even a month of time.
Yeah, the Bears are going to give him so many opportunities, and you're getting him for free at the end of your draft.
The Bears D is brutal. They're going to have to chuck the rock. I mean, I don't care who's quarterback. If this guy's on the field, he's going to get enough targets to be very fantasy relevant.
Yeah,
I would say
I agree.
I would say don't underestimate the Bears defense this year, though. So I'm a Chicago guy.
They do have the best linebacker in the world.
Well, that's the thing. I've been known to be a Bears hater by Chicagoans, but I will tell you this, is that the Bears defense is a little bit underrated because I think they lost 4 of their top front 7 players last year, so that's obviously going to affect everything. And I think their front 7 is one of the better in the NFL. You know, their safety and cornerback positions, that's the questionable part, but if their front 7 can get pressure, I think that they can be better than people think.
Yeah, I'll keep
I
my
think
eyes
that's
on
fair.
For sure.
Okay, guys, so I only have 3 wide receivers at this point. Granted, I like them a lot. Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Golden Tate. I mean, all trustworthy in a PPR league. Yeah, you only have to start 3. With that being said, I do need 2 more wide receivers. There are so many guys I still like here. I mean, I would like to get Darren McFadden with Ezekiel Elliott. Probably going to be out 2 or 3 weeks. James Conner's still there. DeAndre Washington, as I mentioned. Chris Thompson in a PPR league is a nice pick, but I got to go wide receiver here. And I've got Corey Coleman staring me in the face, Corey Davis, Quincy Enunwa, and Kevin White. Zay Jones is a great PPR pick too. There's so many options here. I'm going to go ahead with Quincy Enunwa because he's the number 1 there for the Jets. They're going to be playing from behind. I like Enunwa quite a bit. And then I got to go with my boy Kevin White. I mean, how can I not go with Doug Martin, Kevin White, and Hunter Henry on the same team? I mean, I guarantee I'm going to get a 100 in the grade.
So, Bobby, be a little careful with the whole Zay Jones thing. Did you hear that he's not going to be starting in 2 wide receiver sets?
I heard that that's what they're saying right now, but that doesn't change my mind at all.
Yeah,
because Zay Jones,
and that he'll play the slot when they go 3 wide.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Zay Jones is going to earn his way into the starting role because he's really good.
I hear you. I mean, I'm not saying he can't overtake Andre Holmes, but I think to start the season, and that's where it comes down to, when we talk about these upside picks, I think that's why I like Devin Funchess so much, is that if you draft him in like the last round, granted you're not taking any risk, but here's the thing, you're going to know right away what you have. With Kareem Hunt, I'm going to know exactly what I have right away, whereas with someone like with Zay Jones, it's going to take time, and you really don't know what you have in him yet. We're going to find out if Devin Funchess is a full-time player, and if he is, I mean, the sky's the limit. He could outproduce Kelvin Benjamin, but Zay Jones,
and worst case scenario, you just drop Devin Funchess after 1 week and pick up Chris Conley after he has a 150-yard game in week
God, please stop.
Hey, I'm just going to say this right now. You guys each have one more pick. My draft is done. It better be a good pick because my grade is real good.
All right.
I'm going Dotson.
Right.
He's still there. I talked about him last time. The upside. I mean, Kirk Cousins throwing the football. No, I have nothing further to say.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm actually going to. So wait, I had 4 bench spots, so we have 2 more picks for me. I have a defense and a bench. I don't know why that is.
Nobody knows. Just go with it.
Yeah. All right. So all right. So the round before the last, if the top defense is still there, which they are, Denver, I'll take them. And then my final bench spot.
Oh, you put a defense in there. That's the problem. See, if you get a better grade than me, I'm going to say invalid draft.
I didn't know. Oh, we weren't supposed to have a defense. Crap. That's my bad. But yeah. So for my final bench spot, I will take Kenny. No, I'm going to go Devin Funchess. Actually, I'll just go Funchess because that's who I've kind of gone with. So
yeah.
All
right. So what's your grade tags?
Not ideal. I thought it would be better. I got an 89 out of 100.
Man, that is so lousy.
That defense
I'm
brought
so
him
glad
up.
to finally end my losing
defense
streak.
Brought him up a little bit. That's all right because
he was probably going to be looking at like a 65.
I go and beat him by a point. I got an A-, man. I think it was that pick. I don't know. It was probably about half of them.
Oh, jeez. Bobby, let's hear it. Go ahead, gloat.
I did do the revert pick thing. Otherwise, I probably would have got a 99, but I had to settle for a 97.
That revert pick should cost you a couple points.
I think it should cost 10.
Really
I think it should cost 10, and Bobby loses the draft. No. So, Bobby, go ahead. Share your team.
Okay, my team, my quarterback is some guy named Aaron Rodgers. My running backs, Marshawn Lynch, Mark Ingram, Amir Abdullah, Doug Martin, and Derrick Henry on the bench as upside plays. I'm pretty pumped about that. Wide receivers, Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Golden Tate, and then at the end I got Quincy Enunwa and Kevin White. So I'll definitely be starting Kevin White. I'm not sure if Golden Tate's going to start on the bench or Michael Thomas. And then my tight end is Hunter Henry.
Wow, Bobby, I will say that I do love that team. It's really
pretty
good.
solid.
Thank you.
Pretty solid, especially the way you weighed it.
I had some guys fall to me. Let's be honest.
I think we all did. My team, I was a little more balanced up front with the wide receiver running back first couple rounds, did it the first 4 rounds. So I ended up with Green and Jeffrey as my wide receiver 2, came back in round 5 with Moncrief, and then the last 2 receivers there with White and Dox, and Devontae Parker in round 9. I like him as my wide receiver 4. So I got 6 receivers.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we can start 4 of them, right? Luck's my quarterback in round 6. Definitely like my backfield. DeMarco Murray. Yeah, I mean, I get it. People are a little worried, but I'll take him as my RB1 in round 2. Isaiah Crowell, a good RB2 in any format. And then, I back him up. Mark Ingram took the value of pick 7-10. I'll take it every time with him. And got my guy Dalvin Cook, 8.3, as only 4 running backs on this team. My only tight end, Jack Doyle, waited till round 10 to get him. So we'll see, man. I got to stay healthy.
That's a nice team, too. I'm surprised that's only a 90.
Yeah, no, and my team to wrap it up, quarterback Russell Wilson. My running backs are C.J. Anderson, Mike Gillislee, Paul Perkins, and Kareem Hunt. Oh, and Gio Bernard. And then my wide receivers, Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Sammy Watkins, John Brown, and Devin Funchess. My tight end is Travis Kelce. Defense is the Broncos. I mean, I know we weren't supposed to draft a defense, but
you got the best defense of the draft, that's for sure.
I'm going to go ahead and just use that as my excuse why I lost, even though it's the best defense in the league. But no, I mean, I'm happy with my team. I understand that some people are down on C.J. Anderson. Mike Gillislee is a little bit down in ECR. My upside plays were those were the riskier ones with Paul Perkins and the flex. So I understand it, but I still, at the same time, I'd feel comfortable going into a season with that team.
I like that team too. I mean, you don't have Kevin White, but it's a nice team.
Well, obviously. I mean, I should have taken Kevin White over Funchess as my last pick, and maybe just then I would have gotten a 97.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for the show. You guys can follow Dan on Twitter at Dan Clasgens. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, fellas. Always fun talking football. Enjoy the rest of your draft season.
Thank you. You too. And for those of you listening at home, we've got Raymond Summerlin and Matt Camp coming on for 2 shows later this week. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe and review us on iTunes and screenshot it to contest@fantasypros.com for your chance to be entered for a signed Amari Cooper jersey or a Fantasy Jocks championship belt. By the way, y'all can follow me on Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro and Mike at Mike Tagliere NFL. Thank you again to our sponsors at pristineauction.com, fantasyjocks.com, and rtsports.com/pros for making this show possible. Thanks for listening and enjoy your football.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve.